What happened when Justice Barrett laughed in the echoing marble halls? The courtroom froze, cameras zoomed in, and Jasmine Crockett's silence stretched, before she unleashed the comeback no one expected. Hit subscribe before the knockout lands. In the Supreme Court of the United States, silence is not ordinary. It is sacred. The kind of silence that presses against your chest, that makes every shuffle of paper, every breath, every camera click, feel deafening. On that morning, inside those white marble halls, silence was the rule. And then, suddenly, it was broken. Not by the booming command of a gavel, not by the solemn voice of a clerk, but by something altogether unexpected. A laugh. It started as a chuckle, sharp, cutting, dismissive. And it came from the bench itself, from Justice Amy Coney Barrett. The laughter rippled like glass shattering across a cathedral floor. Reporters blinked. Activists in the gallery stiffened. The cameras perched like hawks on their tripods zoomed closer, hunting for reaction. The source of the justice's amusement? A question. A question asked by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. For a moment, Crockett froze. The laughter wasn't friendly. It was dismissive, meant to diminish her, to strip weight from her words. And in that instant, the entire chamber tilted. Power gathered on one side. The robed justice, perched high above, elite and untouchable. And on the other, a freshman congresswoman, underestimated, treated like an intruder in a world not meant for her. But what no one knew, not the justice, not the aides, not the journalists scribbling furiously, was that this imbalance would not last. Because silence, once stretched, has a breaking point. And when Crockett broke hers, history would echo. Jasmine Crockett's story begins far from marble halls. Born and raised in the working-class South, her childhood was not cushioned by privilege but sharpened by struggle. She was the daughter of grit, the product of nights spent watching family and neighbors fight for fairness in systems tilted against them. Before politics, there was law. Before law, there was survival. Crockett forged herself as a defense attorney, taking cases others turned away. She faced down prosecutors with nothing but sharp preparation and sheer boldness. She wasn't flashy, but she was relentless. Her reputation built not on soaring speeches but on digging through records until the truth had no place left to hide. When she entered Congress, many underestimated her. But insiders learned quickly, beneath her calm exterior lay steel. She was feared for her research, for her ability to find the single overlooked line in a 1,000-page document and turn it into a blade. She thrived when underestimated. She thrived when dismissed. Because she knew, the underestimated carry the most dangerous weapon of all, surprise. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, the power figure. Amy Coney Barrett's rise was the mirror opposite. She was polished at elite institutions, groomed by powerful mentors, handpicked by political heavyweights. Her career was not carved out by resistance but paved by establishment ties. Her nomination to the Supreme Court came at a moment of political urgency. In the heat of an election year, with the machinery of power grinding at full speed, she was elevated as a reliable guardian of ideology. Her reputation, brilliant, yes, but also unyielding, cloaked in arrogance. She was the kind of figure who did not just sit on the stage, she commanded it. With dismissive smirks, with cutting tones, with the weight of tradition on her side, she had grown accustomed to control. Barrett believed she was untouchable. And why wouldn't she? Few dared challenge the robe. But robes, no matter how black, do not make one invincible. The Supreme Court is less a courtroom and more a cathedral to law. Towering marble columns stretch upward, catching light in streaks of white and shadow. Chandeliers hang heavy, their golden glow softened into solemnity. Portraits of justices past line the chambers, each frame whispering the authority of centuries. On that day, the chamber carried more than beauty. It carried tension. Reporters filled the gallery, pens poised, recorders blinking red. Activists leaned forward in their seats, hands gripping notepads, whispering predictions about what this confrontation could mean. Even the air felt electric, charged by the stakes of what was unfolding. This was not a minor hearing. This was not routine testimony. The question looming was existential. Could the judiciary remain independent in the face of money, politics, and unchecked executive power? Or had the nation's highest bench already been swallowed whole by the forces it was meant to restrain? The stakes were written in every anxious glance, every sharp intake of breath. What unfolded here was more than an exchange between two women. It was a collision of two Americas. The entrenched elite, armored in tradition and untouchability, and the insurgent reformer, carrying the hopes of a public desperate to see power checked. History seemed ready to etch itself into marble. Crockett's question was sharp, direct, and impossible to ignore. But Barrett did not answer. She laughed. The sound was quick, clipped, almost theatrical. Like a teacher mocking a student's naivete. "She thinks she can lecture the court," Barrett muttered. Her tone dipped in scorn. The laugh rolled again, this time slower, deeper. It echoed off the high dome above, bouncing back into the gallery like thunder that only she controlled. Gasps broke among the audience. Reporters' pens scratched in haste, journalists whispering, "Did she just laugh?" Crockett stood frozen for a beat. She steadied her breathing, her eyes locking on Barrett's smirk. She repeated the question, her voice steady but sharper now, demanding acknowledgement. Barrett reclined further in her chair, robes flowing like armor, lips curling in disdain. And then, she laughed again. Louder this time. The room shifted. Each laugh landed like a gavel crushing Crockett's words. Every chuckle was a dismissal, a signal to all. This congresswoman's questions were not worth answering. The imbalance was unmistakable. The chamber tilted toward unfairness. The justice's laughter grew into a weapon, silencing the underdog's voice without ever addressing her question. In the gallery, frustration rose like heat. Eyes darted toward Crockett, silently urging her, "Fight back. Don't let this stand." It was David against Goliath, and Goliath was laughing. And then, Crockett moved. She exhaled, long and slow, straightening the papers before her. The rustle of notes was loud in the silence, each fold and shift cutting through the air like a blade unsheathed. Deliberately, she reached for a single page. Not just a question, an answer. Her voice, calm but cold, carried across the chamber. "Justice Barrett, since you laugh at my questions, maybe you'll laugh at your own signature." The words hung like thunder, freezing the chamber in place. Every eye turned. Reporters' pens hovered in midair. Even the security guards, trained to stoicism, blinked toward the document in Crockett's hand. It was a memo, a leaked record that tied Barrett's rulings to quiet meetings with political donors. A paper trail inked with Barrett's own signature. Crockett held it aloft, not shaking, not rushing. She let the room drink in the sight of it. Barrett's smirk faltered. Her laughter stuttered, cut short mid-breath. Crockett's voice dropped, lower now, slicing through the chamber with the weight of accusation. "If you are truly nobody's justice, then why did you take direction from somebody's money?" The words detonated like a bomb. Gasps erupted, a wave rolling through the chamber. Journalists scribbled in disbelief. Cameras zoomed in so close you could see the beads of sweat forming on the justice's brow. The laughter died. The robe cracked. Barrett leaned back in her chair, her posture stiff, hands clenching the bench as though it could anchor her. Her eyes flicked toward aides at the periphery, but no whisper came, no lifeline extended. The silence now belonged to Crockett. She stood tall, expression calm, her stillness louder than any gloat. She didn't need to press further. The evidence had spoken louder than any speech. And then, applause. At first, soft, cautious, like a ripple across still water. But then louder, growing, until it filled the marble dome above. Clapping in the Supreme Court chamber is rare. But history had a way of bending rules. Respect, once held firmly by the justice, shifted visibly. It poured instead toward the congresswoman who had stood against laughter and silenced it with truth. In that moment, the room didn't just witness an exchange. It witnessed reversal. The underdog had seized the stage. The robe was no longer untouchable. History no longer waits for textbooks. It goes viral. By the time Crockett stepped outside the chamber, the moment was already everywhere. Twitter erupted. Hashtag Crockett clapback shot to #1. Hashtag Barrett exposed followed closely behind. Clips spread across TikTok, edited with dramatic music, captions flashing, "When power laughs, truth answers." Millions watched, looping the exact frame where Barrett's smirk froze into silence. Memes flooded Instagram, Barrett's chuckle side by side with Crockett's icy stare, tagged with captions like, "This is the look that silences laughter." Commentators chimed in. "That's how you check arrogance." Crockett didn't just clap back, she set fire to the room. Podcasts dissected it frame by frame, slowing the audio to highlight the gasp from the gallery, the precise second Barrett's laughter cut short. What had begun as a laugh became a cultural reckoning. But the truest measure of moments is not in likes or hashtags. It's in legacy. For Barrett, the exchange marked a fracture. Once viewed as untouchable, she now carried the mark of arrogance humbled. Every future ruling she authored would be shadowed by that frozen smirk, that faltering silence. For Crockett, the confrontation was ignition. She was no longer simply a congresswoman from Texas. She became a symbol of resistance, a face for reform, a living reminder that even in marble halls, power could be checked. Commentators called it the day America saw the robe crack. Law professors wove it into lectures, showing students how underdogs bend history. And beyond individuals, the moment fueled a movement. Petitions surged for judicial ethics reform. Activists cited Crockett's stance as proof that truth, wielded without fear, could cut through centuries of untouchability. It became more than a clapback. It became a warning that robes are not shields, that laughter is not armor, and that sometimes, one sentence, spoken with courage, can ring louder than a gavel.